want to get to the other big story of the day. That's 6 years of former President Trump's federal tax returns have been made public after years of wrangling. The House Ways and Means Committee releasing the returns from 2015 to 2020. Yahoo Finance senior columnist Rick Newman is here with a closer look at those documents. And Rick, I know it's thousands of pages of those documents, but I think the big takeaways: former President Trump paid very little in federal taxes during several of those years. Of course, he claimed some of those huge losses that helped limit his bill. But what stuck out to you in these thousands of pages that you've been able to parse through so far?
Right. So the caveat is it's going to take a while for tax experts to figure out what's really going on in these returns. And these are not all of Donald Trump's returns for these 6 years. These are his personal returns and returns for a few of his business entities. There are other business entities not included here. But what I noticed as I was looking through this is year after year, Trump's bottom line for the one major business that's included here, which is called DJT Holdings, he declares massive losses at this company, 8 figures every one of these years. So in the tens of millions of dollars per year. Now, that is plausible. There's no reason on the face of it to say that this is illegal or anything like that. But let's go back to how Trump got elected president in the first place back in 2016. I remember, he ran as a businessman, not a politician, an outsider. And he told everybody that he was a great businessman and that he would go to Washington and he would be able to shake things up and fix things because he knew how to fix things as a guy who runs a complicated business. Well, let's say his tax return for just 1 year, 2015, had become public back then. That does not show that he's a great businessman at all. It shows he lost, tens of millions of dollars in 2015, and that pattern continued for the next several years. And then when you carry that over into Trump's personal returns, this is mind-boggling to normal people. So in 2015, Trump's adjusted gross income, his AGI, was negative $32 million. So for his income, he said he lost $32 million. And then for 4 of the 6 years between 2015 and 2020, his AGI was negative, and it was only positive for 2 of those years. And when you add it all up, it's deeply negative. So it looks as if Trump on his personal returns lost $54 million. $53 million between 2015 and 2020. How is that possible? Normal people cannot understand that because you can't just lose money in terms of your income year after year and get by. Now, Trump is able to do this because he carries these losses from long ago. You're allowed to do this in the tax code. He carries these losses from 5, 10, 15 years ago forward to help him offset other types of income that he gets in these present years. But this would have been very complicated to explain to taxpayers. And remember, it was very close in 2016. Hillary Clinton did publish her tax return in 2016. She made about $11 million, she and her husband Bill. And they made a lot of money, but it was very straightforward. They paid an effective tax rate of like 34%. You could look at the 2 pages, the top of the return, and it made sense. Not the case for Trump.
Well, Rick, just to play devil's advocate, wasn't that a pillar of Trump's campaign, though, that the system is broken? He knows how to take advantage of the system by playing the tax system, maybe against itself, for lack of a better comparison there. Wasn't that really a pillar of his campaign? And so by that metric, could it be that he actually was a successful businessman? Or is that too twisted a logic?
Well, this is a counterfactual because it's like, how would this have been different if voters did get to see Trump's tax returns in 2016 or in 2020? But you're right, Jared. Trump actually said, yes, the fact that he pays little in taxes makes him smart. And we've had leaks before that have suggested or actually shown that Trump pays very little in taxes. And that is perhaps not so unusual for some business people, and especially for real estate developers who get some of the most generous tax breaks in the tax code. So I don't know how this would have gone over with voters. I think it would have perhaps been a minor vulnerability for Trump. But if you want to carry it forward and say, what does this tell us that we could act upon in 2023 or 24 or going forward? I think there's something very unsettling about somebody who lives a gilded lifestyle while declaring millions of dollars in losses year after year after year and paying almost no tax. So, the IRS is in the process of trying to tighten up on people who do not pay all the tax that they owe. And Democrats have made this a big selling point, and they appropriated an additional $80 billion for the IRS over the next decade. If you want to try to tighten up the tax code and get the people at the top to pay a little bit more, Trump's tax returns are quite an interesting guide for how you might be able to do that.
Very interesting. Of course, we will continue to follow this story. Like you said, of course, we will get revelations about this in the coming weeks. Rick Newman, as always, thanks so much. Happy New Year.
Same.